Let's face it, there's a lot of myths in the world of running a service business. The New Flat Rate podcast helps debunk the myths and begin a paradigm shift. For more information on the New Flat Rate, which is a foolproof way to help your technicians sell more, even if they don't know how to sell, go to thenewflatrate.com.
Hi, I'm Danielle Putnam, president of the New Flat Rate, and in this episode, I'm hanging out with Steve Coscia from Coscia Communications, and we're talking about customer service representatives and training your CSRs. Something that Steve says in this episode that really strikes a chord is it's better to disappoint with the truth than to satisfy with a lie. Listen in so you can learn more.
Hey, Melody with the New Flat Rate here. So let me tell you a quick story. A wife comes home late one night and quietly opens the door to her bedroom. From under the blanket, she sees 4 legs instead of just her husband's 2. She reaches for a baseball bat and starts hitting the blanket as hard as she can. Once she's done, she goes to the kitchen to have a drink. As she enters, she sees her husband there, reading a magazine. He says, "Hi, darling, your parents have come to visit us, so I let them stay in our bedroom. Did you say hello?" If you like stories like that, you'll enjoy Storytime with TNFR. Stay tuned to the end of the episode, and that's where I share the segments called Storytime with TNFR. In that segment, I'll tell you real stories about real people with real businesses and how the New Flat Rate helped.
Hi, I'm Danielle Putnam, president of the New Flat Rate, and today I'm very excited to be hanging out with my friend Steve Coscia from Coscia Communications. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Danielle.
Good to see you here.
Great to be in Dalton.
That's right, because if you know Steve, he's traveling all the time, and I love his emails because at the bottom, it's his travel schedule and where he's going and where he's driving through, and so he's driven to Dalton, Georgia today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here, and we are ready to change some lives.
That's exactly right. He's here because we're talking about customer service. We're doing a CSR workshop today, and before the workshop starts, I just wanted to spend a minute to hang out with Steve and get to know you better for the sake of our audience and to see if we can share any customer service tips. And beyond that, not even just tips, but really a love for customer service. Why customer service? Why is it so important today? How has the landscape changed? You know, everything's so virtual because of COVID-19 this past year. How can we still keep a connection with customers and care about humanity and people? What have you noticed just in your travels? What are different businesses doing? Let's just talk about it.
Okay. You want me to go?
I'm ready. You just take the mic.
Yeah, let's just take that one topic of how things might have changed. Now, you can tell I'm the older guy. And I've been doing this a few decades. And one of the things that has not changed, regardless of the year or the technology or the economic climate, is that customers still want to feel as though they're being understood. Now, that'll happen in a face-to-face conversation. That'll happen over the phone. That'll happen in a text message or an email. Customers are so much easier to serve when they feel the person with whom I am speaking understands me. And that, again, brings listening all the way up to the top of these skills. And when you're texting, you may think, I'm not really listening. You are perceiving and you are discerning. So when you're looking at that text, you want to do more than rush and answer. You want to understand, what is this customer's intent? What are they feeling? And then you write an answer. And then the customer starts to feel understood. Oh, this person understands me. So much easier to have a conversation, so much easier to solve a problem when there's mutual understanding. And that's been that way for decades.
That hasn't changed. I'm so glad you brought that point. I feel like as a society, we're so busy and everything's so fast-paced that we become, our lens is really self-centered. It's all about me, because we're in such a hurry. We don't ever slow down to think about their perspective and see things through their eyes, right?
Yes.
I feel like it's getting worse.
Well, and that's why from my experience, most of the best companies out there understand what you and I just spoke about making the customer feel understood. Now, those best companies, they have all this fast technology. They're doing all this, but they've also enforced among their employees that when we're serving customers, slow down. And part of my curriculum is always to focus on the pace of speech. We're always more understandable. We are more articulate when we slow ourselves down. So anyone can be in a hurry. Anyone can make other people feel like I don't have time. But it's that small ratio of companies out there, the ones in that top 5 or 10%, that say regardless of how busy we get, we make our customers feel like I've got all the time in the world for you.
That's a tough thing to do sometimes.
Someone has to enforce it.
That's right.
It always comes, the issue that I have continually found out there is companies will hire me to improve customer service. People on the phones, people out in the field, and I can do that. However, what I usually find is I may be there for 2 days, 3 days doing the training, but after I'm gone, who's going to enforce that? So much of my work these days is to tell a client when we first start to speak is, let me work with your supervisors and your managers, and let me do some train the trainer. Let me make sure they know how to enforce this, and make sure that they're also leading the right example for everyone. So it's multifaceted, but I've seen it happen again and again and again.
You know, I know it's kind of easy as an owner and as a leader in the business. It's easy to point blame, right? And we constantly have to step above that as leadership and recognize the importance of holding people accountable. And it's not micromanagement, setting the processes and holding the accountability there so the whole company can move up to excellence. And often, you know, when we work with companies too, we're finding that people don't want to have to do that, right? And they don't clearly define expectations. They just want their people to do things that, you know, the way that it's in their head. They may not clearly define that expectation, then they don't follow up with the accountability. So when you're working with the leadership team, do you have a process that you have them follow?
It's very simple.
Okay.
And you just said a mouthful when you convey that managers know what's in their head.
Right.
They know what's in their head, right? They can see the whole thing. But all of that is vapor. It's just what it is. So here's my one sentence that I convey to management.
Okay.
So if I had a little conference room with like 3 supervisors, so your number one job is to help those who work for you to be more successful. So let's think about how can we make them more successful? What do they need? So they need to know the parameters of their processes and their standard operating procedures. They need to understand why completing paperwork before they leave a service call is so important to the people back at the office. That regardless how much of a rush you might be in, make the time to be 100% complete. We also want to make templates for employees. Let them see what a 100% service invoice looks like. After you finish installing an evaporator coil, how do you write it up? The part number, the serial number, the date code. How's it supposed to look? So when we create templates, when we create processes, flow charts, you start to help people to be more successful because now it's not in your head. Now it's written down. Now it's not vapor. And we can improve that. And operations manuals don't have to be exhaustive.
Right.
It could be 5 or 10 pages. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah. I think too often we don't start and create the operation manual because it sounds like such a big task, right?
Yeah.
So great point that Steve just said. It can be 5 to 10 pages.
Yeah.
But you need the template, some sort of here's the process so that they can follow it and repeat it, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how I start working with any supervisors or managers is how can we make everyone that works here more successful? And then when I'm dealing with the frontline workers, people on the phones, people out in the field, the message they need to hear is that they're all leading by example. Because people on the front line used to get the word that it was their manager who was supposed to be leading by example. But what I have found, it's everyone. And regardless of your job title, whenever someone goes outside the parameters of what should be standard operating procedure, they've just set a bad example. And if that bad example is not corrected on the spot, it becomes permissible for other people to do. So everyone leads by example regardless of their title.
You know, that reminds me of, I was listening to a podcast the other day, actually by Dave Ramsey on leadership. And he was talking about, he runs an organization with 1,000 employees, which is very large, right? And he was talking about the culture in his company. And he said, in our company, we're French. We are excellent. We do things this way. We do things that way. And when new employees are introduced to their culture, they have 90 days to learn, of course, the processes and the systems. But after that 90 days, I mean, they have to be French too. And so it's everybody's job in the organization to continue to enforce excellence and to be, like you're saying, the example of the leadership, that we do things this way, we do things that way. And that way they can, not to correct each other, but remind each other on the team, this is the way we do it. And I've been thinking about that a lot. I kind of like the whole we.
Yeah,
it makes an easy way to be a part of a team.
Makes a point. Yeah.
Did you know that we have a business conference every year? It's called Business Uncensored. This year, our topic is drive, and we're so excited about it. We're so excited to help contractors drive their team, their marketing, their purpose, and their money. Go to 2021bu.com, 2021bu.com to check it out today.
So could you tell me, and think back, what was the defining point in your life, if there was one, where you fell in love with customer service and kind of decided to take such a strong interest to make this the career path to be where you are today? Not a career path, but as a coach and a consultant in the industry, Steve speaks all over the U.S., probably Canada too.
Oh, yeah, sure.
All over the U.S. and Canada all the time. He's on the road. He speaks to large groups, small groups, very, very well known. His content is excellent. So what was it that kind of led you in this direction? Was there a time in life where you fell in love with customer service?
It happened back in the 1980s when the light bulb went off. And the light bulb was when I learned that the truth is non-negotiable, right? Better to disappoint people with the truth than to satisfy them with a lie. So that last part sounds a little harsh, but if you don't have the part in stock, you're gonna have to disappoint someone with the truth. But how you do that with finesse? When I learned, you always tell the truth, but rather than say we don't have the part, rather than say we can't do that, you add a little finesse. Well, here's what I can do. Here's what I'll do next. And you're speaking action words. You're saying what you're going to do instead of what you can't do or what you don't have. So the whole finesse part was interesting because as a younger person then, when I got that, I saw the response from customers. They were so much easier to serve. They were so much more cooperative, so much more patient. Why? Because I was making myself a little more likable. And you talk to any psychology professor, and they'll get right down to the number one factor is people who are likable do better in life. They get better jobs, they sell more. It's just one of those things. So that was the light bulb where it started, that the truth is non-negotiable, but you've got to be able to use proper word selection for finesse to get through that. And then I solved some huge business problems. Back then in the 1980s, I administered a factory recall, which was brutal. I mean, the state attorneys general, the lawyers, the Better Business Bureau. They were all after me because I was the service manager.
Right.
And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So I was getting beat up. I was just a young guy in my 30s. I'm getting hammered. And I got through it.
Yeah.
After 9 months, we had the thing done. And that's what got me to start writing.
Okay.
That was the epiphany. When you experience something that deep and emotional, some people, and I was one of those, get this creative outlet. And I needed to vent. So it was good therapy for me to write.
Yeah.
And I started getting articles published, and then my first book, and then a second book, and so on and so forth. So sometimes those adverse events in life, they can be your friend if you persevere.
Yeah, so good. And this is, the industry that we're in, the service industry, the inconvenience level of our customers is heightened. And there's emotions. For heating and air, for example, it's 110 degrees outside and the air, the AC doesn't work. They're very inconvenienced, right? And so all of us in the trades, it's very important. The words that we use, the action words, the non-negative words, telling them how we can help them and figure out how to solve their problem and that they called the right place. And even plumbing. Let's say that there's a major plumbing leak and your customer is so inconvenienced. So I definitely want to encourage you guys, if you don't know Steve, how can they get to know you?
My website is my last name, which is on my shirt. So that's pretty overt. My phone number is 610-853-9836. And go to the website, go to the blog. There's lots of videos there. And call me anytime. My best phone calls, Danielle, are from trade school students.
Awesome.
When I'm in my truck and I'm driving north on I-75 and I get a call from a trade school student where I spoke last week and he's got a question. Mr. Coscia, I'm a helper with a company and what should I do when a customer says this? And we have this great conversation and he's like 40 years younger than me and I'm like his granddad. And that's the great thing about this industry is we're all helping.
Yes.
And I didn't get here very, very quickly, but I stood on the shoulders of other people who helped me to get there. And now I'm helping younger people to get there also.
Yeah, I love that about our industry. Check that out. You can call Steve anytime.
Thank you.
Good. Very cool. Well, hey, Steve, thanks so much for being here today. I love what we've talked about, telling the truth. It's finesse, action words. Such great things and good reminders we all need. So thank you so much. And I look forward to our workshop today. If anybody wants, if you're missing the live workshop, you can definitely get a recording. Reach out to us at the New Flat Rate and ask about the workshop recording that Steve's doing today. And we'll get that to you so that you can train your teams.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Wow. I love how candid that was. So easy for Steve. He can talk and talk and talk about customer service and such great reminders how it's up to all of us to be the leaders in our companies and to raise the bar of excellence and to serve and love on our customers, especially in the service industries. We're on the front lines and boy, customer service is a lost art. So thankful to have Steve. If you want to reach out to him, be sure and call him on his cell because he's driving on the road all the time and he's happy to take your call. And if you need anything from the New Flat Rate, you can check us out at thenewflatrate.com and we can get you a recording of the workshop that we're doing today, actually, for customer service representatives. Reach out to us, info@menupricing.com or thenewflatrate.com. Have a great day.
Hey, Melody with the New Flat Rate again. Today's story is from Matt Cope, our head trainer who talks to contractors all over the United States every single day. So he really knows what's up in the industry. And a plumber called the other day and asked for help to pick a menu pricing page from our pricing app. And he said he had done a diagnosis, but what he didn't tell us is that he just assumed what the problem was. He'd kind of done a diagnosis, but didn't actually do a thorough one. So when we helped him pick the page, we didn't know that. And what happened was he found that he had to move the toilet and all this different things, and found that there were tree roots completely infested behind the toilet. And so it was a way bigger deal than he had originally thought. And so he had already quoted the price to the customer and had to go back and actually tell the customer, oh, I'm so sorry, this is a way bigger job than I thought it was going to be. And which obviously is, not ever fun telling the customer, but it was fine. And the customer chose a great option and the customer was happy that he fixed everything. But that was a problem that really could have been solved easily. And how it could have been solved easily is we recommend when a technician goes out to a job, they go ahead and set a timer for 45 minutes at the very beginning. And if it gets to the point when they're doing their diagnosis, that the timer runs out, they need to decide and go to the customer and ask for an extended diagnostic approval. And that would look like something like this. The technician could go and say, hey, Mr. Customer, you know what? It looks like this is actually a more difficult problem than I thought. And it's a little bit more severe than we had originally hoped. And so in order to be able to let you know exactly what we need to do to solve it once and for all, we're going to have to do some extended diagnostics research here. It's going to begin to accrue some additional charges. We'll try to keep it as low as we can, but in cases like this, we do need an approval for up to this amount. And an example would be like $250. So, we need approval for, up to $250 to actually really find the problem so that we can fix it for you. And then the technician would just say, hey, can you approve that now? And most every customer will say yes. But a lot of times technicians don't do that. And so they're just really wasting time or just assuming that they'll know what it will work when they don't actually look into the complete problem, because they're on a time budget. They probably have the dispatcher calling and saying, hey, how long is this job going to take and whatnot. And so this is definitely what we recommend, is if it's over a 45 minutes of diagnostics and it's hard to find, just ask for money up front and say, hey, this is actually taking a long time. We need extended diagnostic approval. I hope you enjoyed that story. Here at the New Flat Rate, we are really trying to provide you with the best content possible and the best solutions possible for contractors and technicians. If you would like more information about the New Flat Rate, or would like to get on our list where we send you service agreement scripts and wow factor scripts and just all the different type of content that we love providing people, go to TNFR, like the New Flat Rate, but TNFR.us. And just subscribe, and we'd love to give you some more information. Hope you have a great day, and let us know if you have any questions or need some pricing solutions. Have a good day, you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye.